Hello guys, this is your friend. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Tsunade refused Naruto's banishment and escaped with him, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start a new fanfic. What am I to you, Sasuke? Naruto asked while yelling at him questioningly. Sasuke sadly looked down at the water they both stood on. You are my friend, my best friend. Sasuke immediately looked back up at Naruto, his Sharingan blazed. I have to leave that weak village, and that is why I have to kill you. To get the power to kill my brother, you wouldn't understand. That is bull. You could be so much better than that, Sasuke. I won't let you go to that bastard, even if I have to break your arms and legs. Naruto retorted as he coughed up some blood into the water from his still healing chest. Naruto shifted his stance to all four of his limbs as the chakra cloak surrounded him. The chakra formed a single tail and a pair of fox ears jutting from Naruto's head. You said that before, and look where it got you, a Chidori in the chest. I don't know how you heal so quickly, but I will gain power from killing you. What is this power I feel? How does he have such power? He should be dead. Sasuke's thoughts wandered over what had happened so far. They had been fighting for over 20 minutes now. Sasuke was at first winning the battle with ease. But Sasuke finally started to understand that Naruto, while fighting seriously, was not putting his whole heart into the fight. To Sasuke, Naruto prattled on and on about how Sasuke was important to him because he thought of him as a brother. Brother. Ha. Naruto had never had anyone in his life. I am of the Uchiha and we are the elite. He is nothing and will continue to be nothing. Naruto, but I do feel a connection, as you are the one who has been able to push me past my limits where others could not. For that you are my one and only best friend. Sasuke's musing continued as he contemplated what was happening to Naruto. Naruto's tail wagged from side to side as the pressure of the chakra increase subsided and only left the vileness of the chakra that had encompassed Naruto. Sasuke watched with his fully developed Sharingan. It had done so only a little while ago in this fight. While it might not be enough to win, and he needed more to seal his victory and Naruto's death. The curse seal on Sasuke's neck moved across his body and covered him with black patches. You may be special, but I am more special than you, Naruto. I am an Uchiha and you are just a pathetic loser. You always have been and you always will be. Sasuke taunted Naruto. Naruto disappeared suddenly and reappeared 10 meters away. He then ran towards Sasuke. Tem. Naruto yelled in aggravation. Naruto's features had already gone from normal to feral, and now they went to completely wild. His nails had become claws, his canines had elongated, his hair became wilder, his whisker marks became darker, and his eyes had turned from deep cerulean blue to red with slits for pupils. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke yelled as he sent yet another fireball at Naruto. Not unlike the last 5 had sent at him, had done anything more than singe some of his clothes. And the Chidori wound appeared to be nearly healed. Only the hole in the blood on his jacket bore witness that the attack had even hit Naruto. Naruto swung his arm towards Sasuke and the chakra arm flowed at Sasuke. It slammed into Sasuke from over 5 meters away, sending Sasuke careening into the canyon wall. Sasuke began to laugh manically. What is so funny, Tem? Naruto yelled, asking for an answer. The dust began to clear and Naruto began to see a sight that shocked and sent a shiver down his spine. Sasuke's curse seal again spread, and this time it covered his entire exposed skin, turning his pale complexion completely black for a few seconds. Sasuke's hair turned gray. A gray 4-point star appeared on his face around the nose area. Sasuke's skin turned a putrid shade of gray and then star mark turned black. Sasuke's eyes were now black where the whites should have been. His Sharingan continued to blaze. His chakra became twisted and evil. You see, I am better than you. Sasuke again taunted Naruto. Naruto reached out with his chakra arm and slammed Sasuke into the leg of the Madara statue at the edge of the waterfall. Naruto was surprised when he looked at Sasuke only to find what looked like clawed and webbed hand protruding from Sasuke's back as if to protect him. Sasuke had grown a grotesque wing. Naruto was suddenly flung across the face of the waterfall into the leg of the first Hokage statue on the other side of the waterfall. When the dust cleared, Naruto had started to form a single-handed Rasengan using both his and the Kyuubi's chakra. Sasuke grimaced in pain as a second hand came out of his back to give him a pair of grotesque wings. Sasuke then looked at Naruto and saw his left arm hung lifeless and that Naruto was winching in pain. It seems that this power of yours comes at a price. Time to end this. Chidori. Sasuke ran through the 3 familiar seals and then produced a standard Chidori. He then pushed the vile chakra from the seal into the Chidori, turning it into a sickly black lighting. One last chance, Naruto, do me a favor and just die so that I can have my revenge on Itachi. Sasuke almost pleaded with Naruto. No, I promised Sakura-chan I would bring you back and that is what I am going to do. I will not die for you, I have my own dreams. I have been alone too long and I am not going to die here. Not when I have found some people that mean so much to me. Naruto yelled his reply, which only angered the Uchiha even more. Both jumped in front of the waterfalls and flew towards each other. The attacks connected as Chidori and Rasengan was heard. Both were encompassed by the release of energy from both of the attacks, while that release pushed the waterfall back upon itself and up into the air. Naruto reached forward and scratched Sasuke's Hitai, while Sasuke's clawed hand minus the Chidori hit Naruto right above the heart. Sasuke smirked as he felt Naruto's sternum break and his hand start to enter Naruto's body. That was until he felt a fist hit him in the right side directly in the ribs. He felt several of his own ribs break as he and Naruto flew apart. Naruto landed on the river bank, rolling onto his back as blood began to pool in the wound in the center of his chest. Naruto's breathing was shallow but still there. Sasuke had bounced off the back of the waterfalls only to land near Naruto, only further injuring to his ribs. The sun was slowly being blocked out by the clouds that made a ray of sun that bathed Naruto in an almost angelic light. Sasuke slowly crawled over towards Naruto. As he did, the ray of sun slowly shrunk to be only a small beam centered on Naruto's face. Sasuke pulled himself towards Naruto as the ray of sun at last disappeared. Sasuke's bloody hand reached up and touched Naruto's neck as pain racked Sasuke and thus caused him to collapse. Sasuke's Hitai fell as he did this only to land on Naruto's open hand. The rain began to fall and soaked both the boys. A few minutes later, Kakashi and Pakken entered the Valley of the End. Both jumped down the walls as the forms of Naruto and Sasuke came into sight. Kakashi surveyed the two boys. Naruto still bled from the wound in the center of his chest. Sasuke had his hand at Naruto's throat and was dripping blood from his hand and his opened mouth. There were 2 holes in both of the boys' shirts. Naruto had 2 in the chest, one filled with bloody water, and Sasuke had 2 in the back where his wings had sprouted, but now they were gone. Looks like Naruto accomplished the mission of stopping him. All we need to do now is bring them back to Konoha. Pakken stated. I am rather low on chakra and am not sure if I can bring them both back. Kakashi stated bluntly to his canine friend. Do I have to drag the Uchiha brat, or are you going to take a soldier pill and make a Kage Bunshin? Pakken inquired, almost annoyed at Kakashi's laziness. Kakashi finally nodded as the rain subsided and popped a pill in his mouth. He then pulled his mask back into position over his nose and mouth. He then crossed his fingers and stated, Kage Bunshin. A second Kakashi appeared and picked up Naruto as the original picked up Sasuke. All 3 leapt back up towards the cliff side and headed back towards Konoha. Kakashi, his clone and Pakken were jumping back through the trees and were suddenly joined by several medical shinobi. What is the status of Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha? Matate inquired. Sasuke appears to have broken ribs and possible internal injuries. Naruto will be fine, Kakashi stated bluntly. How are the others? The rest of the team are all back in Konoha, having all sustained injuries. Akamaiki and Hyuga are in the most serious condition, while Inuzuka sustained serious but not life-threatening injuries and Nara sustained the lightest injuries. Matate stated, and then surprise came over his face. Kakashi-san, you are covered in blood and trailing quite a bit. Did you injure yourself? That is a Kage Bunshin, and no, I am not injured. Kakashi replied. Then Kakashi, stop now. Naruto appears to need immediate medical attention. We will field treat them both now so that we can ensure that both your students survive. Matate demanded as Kakashi and his clone dropped to the ground. Setting both boys down, Kakashi noticed that Naruto's wound had not healed much at all. He is healing more slowly than I thought he would. Kakashi thought as Sasuke coughed up some blood but otherwise was breathing fine. How are they? Kakashi asked with worry in his voice. Matate had looked over Naruto and continued to shake his head. Magaki spoke up after examining Sasuke. Uchiha-san should be fine for transport. He has broken ribs and a concussion. He has a bruised lung and spleen but otherwise is just suffering from chakra exhaustion. Uzumaki-san is suffering from a partial lung, a heart murmur, blood loss and is bleeding internally. I was able to stop the bleeding for now but we need to get him back to Konoha immediately. Matate stated as he picked up Naruto and jumped off. Magaki picked up Sasuke, Kakashi, Pakken and the last medic all followed them back to Konoha. Back in the Konoha hospital, Shikamaru had just been insulted by Tamari and his father as Tsunade left the operating room where she had just stabilized Choji's condition. Choji will make it, he is out of the woods now. Shikaku, your book on Akamaiki medicines was quite impressive. I would not have been able to figure out how to save Choji without it. Tsunade said to Shikaku as she sighed and then sat down. Everyone turned to a hallway where Shizune appeared. Tsunade-sama, Kakashi and the second medical team have returned with both Sasuke and Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun is in bad shape and we need to hurry. Also Neji Hyuga is out of danger and should make a full recovery. Shizune said as she hurried back the way she came. Tsunade cleared her throat. Shikamaru, you have successfully completed your first mission as leader, congratulations. I will debrief you after we get Naruto out of danger. Tsunade said as she ran off towards her newest waiting patient. If Shizune says that Naruto is in bad shape then it must be bad. Naruto woke up to the smell of antiseptic and bleach. He recognized it as one of the place he hated most, and Naruto did hate this place. He was in the hospital yet again. He opened his eyes and noticed Shikamaru sitting on the bed as he played shogi with himself. Hey Shika! Naruto barked out as he startled Shikamaru. So you are finally awake. It has only been 3 days. Man, you are troublesome, Shikamaru said with a smile as he handed Naruto a glass of water to quench his parched throat. Naruto graciously accepted the glass and drank it down. Naruto was brought up to speed with the mission and how he had saved it from failure, but the really good news was that no one in the group had died. Naruto apparently was the closest to death of the team. Choji and Neji were close seconds. Naruto began to plot a prank with Shikamaru on Choji as the door slid open and slammed against the braces. Sakura appeared in the doorway and she appeared to not be pleased. She looked ready to kill, if you were to read the look on her face. She walked straight over to Naruto and slapped him on the side of the face. She had hit him so hard he went barreling through the window, breaking it in the process. Naruto continued out the window and landed on the pavement walkway outside the building. Naruto landed face first, skidding to a halt in front of Kurenai and Hinata. Hinata looked down in fear but was not sure what to do, either pass out or help Naruto. She opted to help Naruto and bent down to help roll him into a laying position. Naruto-kun, are you okay? Naruto was lucky he landed on his head so the injury was lessened, at least that was Sakura's opinion as she looked out the window to survey her work. Kurenai looked angrily at the pink-haired girl and gently picked up Naruto with the help of Hinata. They proceeded to take him back to his room, quickly. What the hell do you think you are doing, Sakura? He is severely injured, you know. Shikamaru demanded angrily, yelling at Sakura. Kurenai and Hinata had brought Naruto to the doorway as Shikamaru started his questioning. Naruto had woke up to Shikamaru's voice and looked to see Hinata with a concerned look on her face and that he was being carried by Kurenai. I was getting even with Naruto. Sakura spat out with so much venom that Naruto winced in phantom pain. What the hell are you talking about? He brought back your precious Sasuke. What else did you want from him? Shikamaru demanded with even more vigor. He promised to bring him back. But not in pieces. Sakura yelled at Shikamaru. I told you this might be how it would be, didn't I? Shikamaru stated. Yes, but he hurt Sasuke-kun. And I won't forgive him for that. Sakura yelled at Shikamaru. She finally noticed that Naruto was back in the room, she then stomped towards him. Sakura-chan, what are you doing? Naruto asked timidly. He fought me and I did all that I could to bring him back without killing him. I fulfilled my promise to you and brought him back for you, Naruto stated and coughed up some blood. He then covered his head with his bandaged hands and arms as if knowing that she was going to hit him. Sakura was moving in for the kill when her fist was intercepted by a hand. You will leave Naruto-kun alone. He did as you asked you nasty witch. How dare you attack an injured teammate? Hinata yelled bright red with anger at Sakura. What? Are you going to defend your lover? Sakura asked in an annoyed tone. Hinata immediately turned red, started to push her index fingers together and began to talk unintelligibly. Sakura slapped Hinata and then took aim again at Naruto as she ignored the killing intent rising from both Kurenai and Hinata. This is for hurting my Sasuke-kun. I love him and you should have brought him back without hurting him, you monster. Sakura said as her fist traveled towards the blonde. The light went out in Naruto's eyes as he resigned himself to die at Sakura's hands. Just as Sakura's fist was about to connect, Sakura was sent flying into the wall. And I love Naruto-kun and you will no longer hurt him. Hinata yelled at Sakura. Suddenly Hinata realized what she had said. She turned to Naruto who looked at her dumbfounded. Hinata turned bright red and promptly fainted. Kurenai raised an eyebrow and smiled warmly at both Naruto and Hinata. Troublesome, Shikamaru stated as he moved out the way for Kurenai to set the stunned Naruto back into his bed. Yes, young girls are that. Tsunade said as she entered the room, picked up Hinata and placed her in the other bed next to Naruto. Shizune, check out Sakura. And when she wakes up, put her in lockdown for striking an injured patient. Hi Tsunade-sama. Shizune responded with an irritated voice. What just happened? Naruto asked with a look of utter confusion upon his face. Well, which part do you want me to explain? Tsunade asked as she started to examine to Naruto. All of it, Naruto replied. Tsunade smiled warmly as she did a diagnostic jutsu on Naruto. Let's see. Sakura is mad at you for doing your duty and hurting Sasuke. You brought him back like I ordered, injured yes but less so than any of you guys other than Shikamaru. Good job by the way. Let's see. Sakura cracked a couple vertebrae, your jaw and your skull. I wasn't even sure that was possible. And Hinata over there declared her love for you, kind of cute if you ask me. She then defended you from attack. So what are you going to about it? Tsunade asked kindly. I don't know, Naruto replied as he tried to assimilate all the information. Well, let's start with your report then. Tsunade prodded Naruto gently. Well, after bushy brows took over the fight with that bone guy for me, I chased Sasuke. The Tem kept on taunting me. I tried to talk to him and get him to return but he just laughed at me and called me in the village weak. I punched him trying to knock some sense into him and he tried to kill me for just punching him. We fought and I had to use him. Sasuke pushed a Chidori right through my chest, here. Naruto explained as he pointed to his right chest where there was a patch of lighter colored skin. It was aimed for my heart but I was able to divert it at the last moment. He really wanted to kill me saying that, killing you will allow me to gain the power I need to kill Itachi, whatever that means. We fought for quite a while. As the battle began to draw to a close, Naruto looked down and swallowed hard. He called me his best and only friend, and that was the reason he had to kill me. He ordered me to die. I got so angry I continued to pull from my second chakra reserve, and again we fought. He transformed into something hideous with wings and all. We made one last attack against each other. He powered up another Chidori and I made a Rasengan. They hit and they destroyed each other. I scratched his Hittai, and I also got a good hit to his ribs while he dug his clawed hand into my chest. Interesting. Sounds like the people we fought. They said they were fighting at their second level of their curse seal. Must be what Sasuke was doing. Shikamaru stated. Kamizuki appeared in the doorway. Hokage-sama, the council is demanding your presence. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. Tsunade waves Kamizuki off. That is okay. What do the old buzzards want now? I don't know, but they said it was urgent. Kamizuki replied with a bow. Naruto, you get to feeling better and keep an eye on that one, she might be a keeper. Tsunade said, pointing at Hinata, smiled and ruffling his hair. And forget about the pink one. She will not let go. Tsunade said with a gentle smile and left the room. Shizune picked up Sakura and left right behind Tsunade. She deposited her on an empty gurney and followed Tsunade after whispering orders to one of the nurses. Naruto's eyes moved back and forth between the door and the bed with Hinata. What do I do? Sasuke is all Sakura thinks about and wanted. I guess I understood that when I promised her that I would bring him back. Now she hates me for fulfilling my promise to her. She begged me to bring him back. I just figured if I did this she would at least be a little nicer to me. Naruto thought to himself. Hey, so what are you going to do? I mean, you have the daughter of the Hiyashi Hyuga right there and she professed to be in love with you. I would say that you could do a lot worse. I mean, a girl who says she loves you is a good start. Especially for a guy who kept on hitting on the pink banshee, and would get clobbered every time you ask her out. Shikamaru said with a gentle smile. Naruto smiled and put his hand behind his head. Yeah, Sakura can get a little violent. I think I am getting sort of tired of it. Naruto said cheerfully and then looked directly at Shikamaru, who had a stunned look on Shikamaru's face. What? Shikamaru shook his head. What, no-chan? Naruto looked confused for a second and then looked like he was thinking. Well, I have never had someone say they like me, let alone say that they love me. I mean, almost the entire female population our age is after Sasuke Tem. I guess I am wondering what it is like to talk to a girl and not have her clobber me for once. Or if she does, at least she would say it was because she cared about me. Hinata had woken before Tsunade had left but feigned being asleep. Maybe Naruto-kun will give me a chance, were her thoughts as she contemplated what to do next. Tsunade walked into the council chamber in a surprisingly good mood. First, Naruto had survived being attacked by Sasuke, and second, Hinata Hyuga of all people had stood up to one of the people who had been mean to her adopted son and professed her love for him. Tsunade sat in her chair. Okay. What is so important that you have to pull me from treating patients and injured shinobi? Tsunade asked with a sigh. Tsunade Haim, are we to understand that the demon brat brought back the Uchiha boy? Kaharu asked in an angry tone. Tsunade wore a confused look on her face. Shikamaru Nara and his team were able to successfully retrieve the missing nin Sasuke Uchiha. On that point, the council has decided that Sasuke will not have been listed as missing ninja. A majority of the council feel that boy was the cause of him leaving in the first place. So no punishment will be put upon Sasuke Uchiha. Homura explained. Tsunade stood and slammed her fist on the table, cracking it. What? I have 5 injured genin, and 2 injured jonin, who had to deal with the group that accompanied Sasuke on his little merry trip to go see Orochimaru. And you want to just set him free? He severely injured one of my genin personally, with the intention of killing him. His death would have been immaterial. The important fact is that Sasuke is back in the village. Kaharu stated. A large group of the clans grumbled at that statement but were outnumbered by the older shinobi and civilians on the council. You see, Tsunade Haim, We know you favor the boy and are just making sure that the interests of the village are looked after before your own personal agenda is satisfied. It has also been decided that the demon child will either be exiled or if you prefer we could have him executed if he does not accept exile. Danzo stated. What are you thinking? He is Konoha's Jinchuriki. There is also Akatsuki to worry about. Aren't you worried about what they might do to Naruto? Tsunade asked as her worry piled up. We are strong enough a village now that we can deal with a few missing nins. Danzo stated. They are all A ranked or higher. One even slaughtered his own clan. Now why do you want to exile Naruto so badly? Tsunade asked pointedly. He is guilty of stealing, making a general nuisance of himself and injuring a fellow shinobi. Homura stated. Which shinobi are we referring to? Tsunade asked, not liking where this was going. First we must point out Sasuke Uchiha, and second we point out Mizuki Tsuji. Koharu stated. Both were traitors. Mizuki was trying to steal the Forbidden Scroll and Sasuke left without permission and was traveling to a known enemy. Tsunade protested. It is our understanding that Naruto Uzumaki stole the scroll. Homura replied. Only after being coerced into it, by being told that he could pass the Genin exam if he delivered it to Mizuki, thus Mizuki is the guilty party. Tsunade protested. Naruto still stole the scroll and that in itself is a crime punishable by death. Koharu replied angrily. And he severely injured Sasuke Uchiha while he was supposed to retrieve him. We might have lost the Uchiha line permanently. Homura answered. Uchiha resisted and force was required to bring him back. I authorized force to be used if necessary. And why are you so worried about the Uchiha line? Tsunade said. Hiashi stood and yelled. I have had enough of this witch hunt. I am leaving. Hiashi got up and left, taking along with him Shibi Aburame, Tsume Inuzuka, Choza Akamichi, Shikaku Nara and the Inoichi Yamanaka. Now we can actually some business done without them being here and in the way. We do have a quorum. And thus we can pass what is needed for this village. Also we know that the Fire Daimyo will sign off on the order to either exile Uzumaki or execute him. So it is up to you to decide. You have a week to have him prepared for his exile or his death. Danzo stated as he and the rest of the council left, leaving Tsunade nearly in tears. I will not sign the order, so you on the council will have to do your own dirty work. I will of course inform him. Mark my words, others will not be pleased with what you are doing and Konoha will suffer. Tsunade walked out of the council chambers and into her office. She began to weep uncontrollably as she slumped into her chair. Tsunade was sitting at her desk while Shizune continued to try to calm her down and not let her do anything rash. They want to either kill Naruto, Shizune, or have him exiled. Tsunade said as tears ran down her face. It can't be that bad, Lady Tsunade. Shizune tried to reassure Tsunade. No, it is worse. They want to put a deadline on his leaving and he isn't even out of the hospital yet. Those injuries he got would have killed even a Sannin. Sasuke's injuries are light compared to the others except for maybe Shikamaru. He may be a dimwit, but he is the reason I came back here. If they send him away, I have no reason to be here, the village be damned. Tsunade said with conviction. Lady Tsunade, we can't abandon the village like that, it wouldn't be right. Shizune lectured Tsunade. This time the village is abandoning us, especially him. It isn't his fault that the Kyuubi is stuck in him. Tsunade sobbed out. Yes, it is fault of my student and his effort to protect this village. So when are we leaving with the Gaki? Jiraiya asked with a lecherous grin while he sat on the window sill. Tsunade's attitude changed and she got a gleam in her eyes. You are not leaving, but I have an idea. I need you to cover for me for a while so that I can do something with the Yondaime's legacy. Tsunade said with a wicked grin as she pulled out a picture of Hinata Hyuga. What about the Hyuga girl? Jiraiya said with disdain. She is quiet but powerful. She also showed me something that I like. She appears interested in our favorite Gaki. Tsunade said with a grin. Jiraiya, seal up all of Naruto's stuff and have it here in the morning. Shizune, find me Hinata Hyuga, I have an apprentice to appoint and some paperwork to fill out. IAA. Are you feeling alright, Lady Tsunade? Shizune asked as Jiraiya slipped out the window towards Naruto's apartment. Naruto was just waiting for the nurse to arrive, thus bringing him his nightly dinner. The door opened and a dejected-looking Jiraiya and a somber-looking Iruka entered. Yo Gaki, want to go out to ramen our treat? Jiraiya asked in a somber mood. Naruto was not sure how to react. First Tsunade Obachan had said he needed to stay in the hospital, but now Jiraiya and Iruka-sensei were offering to have him go out to dinner with them. Naruto did not quite trust Jiraiya because of his training and leaving him with the bill. What's the catch, Aro Senin? Naruto asked with a questioning look. Can't I take my favorite Gaki out to dinner? Jiraiya asked innocently. Right, last time you said you would treat, I ended up paying for it. Naruto said with a huff. It isn't my fault, you misunderstood what I was talking about when I said we would go eat your favorite food. Jiraiya pleaded innocently. And then you had me get clobbered by Sakura as part of training. What was that all about? Naruto replied angrily. What no-chan for poor Sakura? Jiraiya inquired playfully as Iruka had also noticed the missing chan suffix on Sakura's name also. Not after what she did to me earlier today. She punched me out through a window. Talk about adding insult to injury. And then Hinata-chan defended me. Naruto replied with a blush. He was not sure why he was blushing. He knew he was blushing and it just seemed to come naturally. What's wrong with a little punch? Tsunade Heim does it to me all the time. Jiraiya responded, and he did notice the blush on Naruto's face at the mention of the Hyuga girl. What? Sakura assaulted you while you were in the hospital? We are on the second floor. I know the Kyuubi heals you pretty quickly, but Naruto, that just isn't right. With Jiraiya-sama, Lady Tsunade will heal him up after hitting him. I know that Sakura doesn't have those skills. Iruka stated as he shook his head. So Hinata defended you. Was this before or after you were sent out the window? And why did Sakura send you out the window, Naruto? Naruto took a minute to think, then proceeded to explain what happened. You see, it is all Sasuke Tem's fault. Sakura loves him and hit me because I hurt that Tem. That was the only way to bring him back, there was no other way. As for Hinata-chan defending me, well, Kurenai-sensei brought me back up to the room after Sakura sent me flying. When we got back into the room, Sakura was going to hit me again, but Hinata stopped her, Naruto explained while his face turned red. What did she say, Gaki? Jiraiya prodded with a lecherous look in his eyes. Sakura said that she loved Sasuke, and Hinata-chan said. Naruto gulped and turned even redder than before. Yes? Jiraiya asked as he moved closer to Naruto and drew out the yes. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. She said she loved me, okay? Naruto yelled out only to pull the covers over his head. Iruka beamed with joy. Hinata seemed to have gotten over her shyness and admitted her affection to the blonde he considered a son or a younger brother. That is great, Naruto. Now you will treat her right, won't you? Naruto lowered the covers with a confused look on his face. What do you mean? Why wouldn't I? She is a friend. Naruto replied. Iruka slammed his hand onto his forehead. Naruto, are you going to reject her right off the bat, or you? Iruka asked, not sure if he wanted to know the answer. What do you mean? I like her, but I don't know if I love her. Naruto responded, but it sounded half-hearted. Naruto, get dressed and we will go out to eat. We will also have a talk. Actually, we have a few things to discuss, including your new girlfriend and how to treat her. Jiraiya said, throwing a fresh pair of clothes to the blonde. Naruto did as he was told, but not sure if he wanted to know what this talk was all about. Naruto, Iruka and Jiraiya left the hospital saying they would return the patient in an hour or two. Hinata-sama, you have a guest at the front gate. It is Shizune-san with a message from Hokage-sama. Neji said in a flat tone but with a gentle smile. Thank you, Neji-nisan. I will be there in a few moments. Hinata responded as she pulled her jacket back on and headed towards the front gates of the Hyuga complex. Hinata bowed as she passed several branch family members who smiled and returned the bow. Shizune smiled warmly to Hinata and waited until she was standing right in front of her before addressing Hinata. Hokage-sama requests your presence before her immediately. Hi. Hinata responded as she fell into step behind Shizune as they walked towards the Hokage's tower. Naruto, before we begin, I want to explain something to you. Jiraiya said in a serious voice as they sat down in their stools at Ichiraku ramen stand. Naruto nodded. He understood he needed to listen. Jiraiya sighed first, then looked directly into Naruto's eyes. Hurting a teammate when they are injured is not how you conduct a relationship, friendship, or teamwork. I know you have a thing for that pink-haired girl. Sakura isn't it? A crush, so to speak, but that is all it is. She has rejected you how many times? Jiraiya inquired. I don't know, I haven't counted for years. Naruto replied with an annoyed tone. Let me ask you this then. Has she ever accepted your invite to lunch or dinner dates? Jiraiya asked. Yeah, once right before Sasuke ran away. Naruto replied, not sure what Jiraiya was getting at. Did you talk about each other? About, say, what your plans for the future are? Did she seem interested in what you had to say? Jiraiya asked. Naruto's face saddened. No, I tried to talk about lots of things, but she seemed distracted and all she wanted to talk about was Sasuke. Naruto replied and drew out Sasuke's name. Naruto, Sakura has been chasing after Sasuke since before the academy. She, like a lot of the girls of your generation, were and still are fans of Sasuke. Hinata was one of the only one who seemed immune to Sasuke's supposed charm. She on the other hand appears to have fixated on you, Naruto. While Sakura likes you at most as a friend, Hinata seems to be more interested in you than she is any of the other boys. She has kept an eye on you from afar for a long time. Uruka said quietly. Hinata, yeah, that pale-eyed Hyuga girl. Yeah, she only seems to hang around here when you are here, Naruto-kun. Ayame commented. You could do worse. That pink-haired girl seems nice, but she did not appear to have any interest in you at all. Naruto brightened, almost ready to defend Sakura, but then became depressed. But Sakura, Hinata, could you guys be right? Ah, I'm so confused, Naruto yelled in a panic. That is a good place to start, Naruto-kun. Ayame smiled as she began to talk and serve the guys their ramen. Hinata knocked on the door of the Hokage's office only to hear a muffled, come in. Hinata bowed and looked at Tsunade. You called for me, Hokage-sama. Tsunade finished writing on the sheet of paper in front of her. Tsunade smiled and looked at the young girl. Her eyes were red and puffy as if she had been crying recently. Hinata Hyuga, I have a few questions for you and please answer the questions honestly. Hi, Hokage-sama. Hinata answered sharply but quietly. How would you like to become my apprentice? Tsunade asked as she folded her hands in front of her chin. Hinata blushed with surprised look on her face. Me? Why me? Well, between you and me, I need someone with excellent chakra control. Being a Hyuga, you fit the bill. You also more than likely to have some knowledge of healing already. This will help me in my instruction of an apprentice. Tsunade pointed out. I would love to become your apprentice. I am not afraid of hard work, Tsunade-sama. What are your other questions? Hinata asked. Well, were you serious with your statement in Naruto's hospital room? I am sorry to be so blunt and put you on the spot like this, but I need to know. Tsunade asked with a warm smile on her face. Hinata blushed and nodded. Tsunade smiled at her acknowledgement. For my next question, I have to make you swear to secrecy. What I am going to tell you is a secret and I need you to not spread it. Tsunade looked at Hinata closely. Hinata contemplated what Tsunade had said to her. You can trust me, Hokage-sama. I can keep a secret, Tsunade-sama. Good. Naruto has been exiled by the council. Tsunade stated bluntly. She then waited to gauge the girl's reaction. Hinata became angry and tears welled in her eyes. No, they can't do that. That is the Hokage's job. He has done nothing wrong. No, they can't do that to my Naruto-kun. Hinata protested adamantly. Okay, given that, what would you do for Naruto? Tsunade asked with a smirk, hoping for a certain reaction. I would do anything. Would, Hinata's gulped and puts on a stern face. I would even face my father to help Naruto-kun. Hinata said as she trembled with both frustration and anxiety, her fists clenched. Tsunade smirked. How would you feel about leaving the village with Naruto, Shizune, Tonton and me? If I were to say leave the village with Naruto, would you come with us? Tsunade watched the emotions play over Hinata's face. Hi, Hokage-sama, I would leave with you and Naruto-kun. If only to be near him. Hinata replied, the last comment was barely audible. Tsunade smiled. Good, then pack up and we leave tomorrow morning at 6 am. Naruto and Shizune will be accompanying us. You are now officially my apprentice. Please sign here and make it official. Tsunade pointed to a paper which Hinata promptly signed. Maybe we could work on getting our idiot to notice you, Tsunade chided with a wink. Hinata smiled and blushed. I would like that. Hinata began to press her index fingers together in a nervous habit. Naruto woke early to a nudge from a certain perverted sage. Yo, Gaki, wake up. Time to go, I got everything packed for you. Go take a shower and get yourself cleaned up and put on the clothes I put on your bed. Jiraiya explained as he put a pack on Naruto's bed. Naruto groggily got out of the hospital bed. He then stripped off his clothes and his bandages. He then swiftly took his shower. He re-entered the room to find both Jiraiya and Iruka both waiting for him. No orange today, Gaki, and the Hyatate will stay here. Until we can get things fixed, you are no longer a shinobi of the leaf. You are still my student and I expect you to learn a lot while you're gone. Now get dressed. Jiraiya ordered. Naruto put on the clothes, dark blue shinobi pants, shirt and jacket. There was also a Chunin vest. Naruto looked at Jiraiya questioningly, as Jiraiya just nodded. Iruka smiled as Naruto's face lit up at the prospect of wearing a Chunin vest. One of Hokage-sama's gifts, you are now a Chunin. It was a field promotion for successfully completing the mission. Now get to the West Gate and meet up with your traveling companions. I am sure you'll enjoy them. Iruka explained with wink at Jiraiya. Naruto grabbed his pack, which was unusually light for what he normally packed. He jumped out the window and headed towards his apartment. He entered and looked around his apartment and only the furniture was left. Naruto took one depressed look at both Jiraiya and Iruka and then ran into Iruka's arms. He hugged Iruka fiercely. I will miss you too, Naruto. You are like a little brother to me. Good luck on your journey. I hope you can come back stronger. Iruka said as a single tear ran down his face. Naruto next embraced Jiraiya with a hug just as fierce. I will miss you too, Gaki. You are like a grandson to me. I will do what I can to make you be able to come back and maybe take that Hokage position you want so badly. Naruto, not wanting to show weakness, smiled, waved and ran towards the gates. He found 3 cloaked figures, one slightly shorter than himself. About time you got here, now put this on. He recognized Tsunade's voice as she threw him a cloak. Anbu, no one is to follow us from the village for the first day. Tsunade said to no one in particular. The smallest cloaked figure moved closer to Naruto. I am glad I could accompany you on your trip, Naruto-kun. Naruto froze as he recognized the voice as Hinata's. Okay, let's move out, Tsunade stated as they headed out of the village. A few miles down the road, Tsunade spoke up. We are not missing Nin. We are independent shinobi. Naruto, you know why we are leaving the village, right? Naruto's face fell and he nodded. Yeah, I guess. It is because I hurt their precious Uchiha, right? Naruto drug the E in precious out on purpose for effect. Tsunade nodded. Do you want to tell Hinata here the other reason? I am sure she will understand and not hate you for it. I would do it now so that she will not be surprised later. Tsunade almost ordered. Naruto looked dejected. Aw man, do I have to tell her? Naruto whined like he always did. But Hinata shocked as she noticed a tinge of fear evident in his eyes. Yes, Gaki, you do. If you don't, I will. Like I said, we don't want to surprise her later. Tsunade replied, nearly scolding Naruto. Her tone sounded more like a mother scolding a child. Hinata nearly laughed but thought otherwise as she noticed the concern weaved into her voice. Naruto sighed and then glanced around looking for a place to sit down, finding a fallen log. He sat down on the log and motioned for Hinata to join him. Hinata sat down as Naruto gulped loudly before he took a deep breath. Hinata, do you remember the stories of the Kyuubi attack on village almost 13 years ago? Naruto inquired. Why, yes, it is said that the Yondaime Hokage killed the great demon Kyuubi by sacrificing himself for the village. Hinata responded. Gulping again, Naruto replied. Well, you only know part of the truth. What do you mean, only part of the truth? Hinata questioned. As Naruto looked at Hinata, he sighed and thought. I guess this is it. It is either now or never. It is true that the Yondaime did sacrifice himself to stop the Kyuubi. Hinata's face went from expressionless to fearful. What do you mean that he only stopped the Kyuubi? Didn't it die? The Kyuubi is a Biju and thus impossible to kill. There is only one way to stop them. You need to seal inside something like we seal things using sealing scrolls. But with the more powerful ones there are special requirements. Naruto continued. Special requirements? What does he mean by special requirements? Hinata thought as Naruto continued his explanation. The Kyuubi, having 9 tails of power, is so powerful that it would need something with the willpower to suppress it and have chakra coils that could expand to deal with the strain of the additional chakra it would be giving off. Naruto's reflected his worry as he saw Hinata's face became more and more filled with rage. Only a newborn child would be able to handle the added strain and be able to grow under such a predicament. Naruto took a deep breath and then looked deep into Hinata's eyes. Hope showed as Naruto asked his next question. Do you know what day my birthday is? Naruto asked quietly. Why, yes I do. It is October 10th. Hinata replied without thinking. A moment later she had pieced the puzzle together and gasped at the implications. Naruto closed his eyes, lowered his head as he awaited Hinata's response of fear and loathing. That did not happen. Instead he felt a drop of moisture land on his hand. He opened his eyes to see Hinata crying before she wrapped her arms around him and proceeded to bury her head in his chest. Wincing in pain, Naruto looked up at Tsunade as if to questioning what to do next. His gaze was rewarded by seeing Tsunade and Shizune both crying. Looks like you're stuck with her, kid. Tsunade said with a chuckle once the crying had subsided. Naruto sighed gently as he placed his hand upon Hinata's head. Hinata looked up at Naruto with sad eyes. I am sorry, Naruto-kun, that you had to have such a burden for so long and I didn't realize your pain. Please forgive me. Hinata again buried her head in Naruto's chest, eliciting a slight oomph from Naruto. Hinata didn't raise her head and apologized. Sorry. That's all right, Naruto said as he lifted Hinata's face to look at him. Hinata-chan? Naruto inquired. Yes, Naruto-kun, Hinata answered. Did you mean what you said back in the hospital? And now that you know my secret, do you still feel the same way? Naruto queried. Hinata nodded and stammered out her response. Naruto-kun is Naruto-kun. She then put her head down on his chest as her blush made red apples look pale in comparison. Naruto just smiled warmly as he brushed her hair with his hand for several minutes as Hinata composed herself. Better? Naruto asked. Hinata nodded and extracted herself from Naruto. She was still blushing but had at least gone back to a pink shade. So Hinata, do you have a problem with Naruto being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi? Tsunade solicited a shake of Hinata's head. Good, now we can continue. Shizune, you got everything that I told you take care of last night, didn't you? Shizune nodded. Yes, Tsunade-sama. The money is sealed in one of the scrolls, as is your hat. The scroll of sealing and a couple other scrolls are sealed in another scroll. Sarutobi-sama's summoning scroll in that scroll too. I have the 4th special dagger and notes on Hiraishin no Jutsu. I also have copies of Jutsu from Hiashi for Hinata to study. Shizune's statement caused both Hinata and Naruto to take notice that Hiashi had given something to them before they had left specifically for Hinata. Hinata helped Naruto stand up off the log and noticed he was in pain. Tsunade-sama, Naruto-kun isn't doing so good. He needs some help. Hinata yelled as she brought Naruto's arm over her shoulder just as Naruto collapsed into her. I think he passed out. Please, help him, Hinata begged. Tsunade pointed to a spot on the ground free of debris. Set him there, I need to check him. Also use your Byakugan to check his chakra network. Tsunade ordered as Hinata gently placed Naruto on the ground. Hinata activated her Byakugan as Tsunade did a diagnostic jutsu. Shizune. Naruto is suffering from internal bleeding again. Apparently he can only take so much Kyuubi chakra for repairs. We need to patch him up again. Tsunade turned to Hinata. He will be okay and don't blame yourself for his injuries. I am sure he was pushing himself too hard and opened up one of the sutures in his lungs. We can fix it, but what do you expect from him? He wasn't supposed to leave the hospital until the end of the week. But Tsunade-sama, I am sure that my jumping on him hurt him. So it is my fault. Hinata said as her eyes filled with tears. Naruto had his chakra network separated from his heart and his heart nearly shredded. I think he will survive this. So tell me what you see. Tsunade ordered gently. Hinata gulped down her tears and looked at Naruto's chest. His chakra network was in shambles near his lungs. There was red chakra surrounding the injury, but it was slowly fixing the damage. Tsunade, he only has a few chakra veins going into his arm. His lung does not have a chakra system at the moment. I do see red chakra building chakra veins in the area, but will take a long time at the rate they are going. They appear to be repairing a short length then heal the area around the length, but the healing is faster than I have seen anyone heal. It must be the Kyuubi trying to repair the damage. When we put him back together he was a mess. He had a bruised heart and his right lung was missing. It was growing slowly and we estimated it would take about a week to be fully repaired. I guess my estimates were right. Tsunade looked around the area and pulled out a scroll. What is that scroll? Hinata asked as she held Naruto's hand and stroked his face gently, which elicited a weak smile. Oh, it's a camping equipment scroll. Shizune, gather some firewood. Hinata, I want you to sleep with Naruto tonight. Tsunade appeared to order Hinata. Hinata promptly passed out next to Naruto. Geez, I meant she would need to sleep in the same sleeping bag so that Naruto would not get cold. Tsunade stated as she chuckled at Hinata's antics. Tsunade and Shizune both made camp using the tents and equipment sealed up in the scroll. Shizune had just placed Naruto in a double-wide cot inside of a sleeping bag. Tsunade had gotten the fire started when Hinata had woken up. Good evening, sunshine. Tsunade teased the young Hyuga. I wanted to apologize and say that I didn't mean what you thought I meant earlier. I want you to share the sleeping bag with Naruto so that he doesn't get cold tonight. I just figured you wouldn't mind. I mean, Shizune could do it if you would like. Tsunade teased both Hinata and Shizune. Hinata pressed her fingers together in her familiar nervous habit. I would like to help Naruto-kun, Hinata replied nervously. Tsunade smiled gently. Take good care of my little brother. Tsunade's face changed to a stern look. We are going to start the both of you in your training tomorrow. Hinata, I know that you have good chakra control. We need Naruto to have similar control. Because of the Kyuubi, his chakra reserves are enormous. That and his family also had large reserves. You knew Naruto-kun's family. You should tell him. Hinata pleaded with Tsunade. It might help him to know he was loved. Everyone in the village treated him badly and for something he couldn't control. I knew his parents, but I will explain it later. For now you can tell him that he was loved by his parents and he can verify it with me. He is not ready for this truth, not yet. Now eat your dinner and go lay down beside your boyfriend. Tsunade teased as she handed Hinata a plate of food. What about Naruto-kun? Hinata asked as she took the plate. He should be out for the night. Shizune and I will keep watch. You just keep your Naruto-kun warm tonight. Tsunade ordered. Hinata blushed and smiled. Hi, Tsunade-sama. That's my girl. Tsunade stated as she handed a second plate to Shizune and filed a last plate for herself. Hinata snuggled up beside a shivering Naruto. He settled down after a while as her body heat helped heat him back up. Hinata slept the best she had in years and woke to see Naruto's gentle whiskered face. Tsunade walked over the sleeping pair and gently touched Naruto's shoulder. Naruto, Naruto, it is time to wake up. And be careful about it, you are injured. Naruto's eyes flittered open as he looked to see Hinata looking at him from inside the same sleeping bag. Morning, Naruto-kun. Hinata took a deep breath as her face turned from pale to pink in a moment's time. Ba-chan, why is Hinata's face turning red? Naruto inquired. Well, Gaki, you see, Hinata here is shy and she likes you. You are in the same sleeping bag and she is not used to that, being brought up as proper lady. Tsunade replied. How would I know anything about a proper upbringing? I didn't have anyone other than Gigi for a long time. I missed out on a lot. Naruto looked away, his eyes sad. Naruto-kun, I am here for you. We will try to help you where we can. Hinata said with all the courage she could muster. Tsunade did a diagnostic on Naruto and shook her head. Naruto, what am I going to do with you? I always seem to be patching you up from a lethal injury. Can I help it if I keep on getting the bad luck of the draw in getting opponents who want to kill me for some reason? Naruto retorted. Well, your internal bleeding has stopped and your lung will take about 2 weeks to repair itself. I am thinking we need to find a little more permanent lodging for us so that we can get you healed up and ready for your training under me. Tsunade stated with a broad smile. What do you mean training under you? I thought Ero Sennin was my sensei like Kakashi sensei. Naruto stated as he noticed Tsunade wince at the mention of Kakashi. What? Tsunade's face furrowed in both anger and disappointment as she looked at Naruto. I looked at the report that Kakashi filed and the ones the medical team filed. What has Kakashi done with your training? Tsunade asked as she knelt near the cot. Naruto looked up and to the right as he pondered the question. Well, he did teach us chakra tree climbing. Other than that, we would mold chakra and do taijutsu training. Was it training or just sparring? Tsunade asked. Well, it was mostly sparring as he would pit me against both Sakura and Sasuke Tem. Naruto looked suddenly depressed. He wouldn't even get me a decent trainer for the Chunin exams. Tsunade looked surprised. I thought Jiraiya trained you for the Chunin exams. Yeah, after Kakashi dumped me for Tem and gave me closet pervert Ebisu, special Jonin trainer. Naruto mocked the title for Ebisu and caused Hinata to giggle. I like your laugh, Hinata-chan, you should do it more often. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Hinata blushed as she replied. Okay, you got Ebisu as a trainer, what did he teach you? Tsunade inquired. Naruto took a deep breath and started the story. Well, I was not pleased with being dumped for Tem, so closet perv and I played a game of tag. I lost and Ebisu took me out to lunch. He insulted me about my chakra control, big news to me. I have a ton of chakra and no control. Sakura has practically nothing for chakra and near complete control. So he went on about how they had better control than me and took me to the hot springs. To peek on women, no doubt. Tsunade added as she rolled her eyes. Well, not really, he showed me, or at least tried to show me how to walk on water. I got burnt and soaked by this and almost had it until I saw Ero Sennin peeping. Naruto chuckled. You see, Jiraiya flattened out Ebisu with a toad summons. Tsunade smiled at this. Yes, super pervert clobbers closet pervert. Well, I chased Jiraiya until I captured him. He still wouldn't train me. Well, he owed me training as he took my only trainer. Naruto pleaded to Tsunade, and Shizune's laughter. Well, I had to persuade him, Naruto bashfully explained to a raised eyebrow of Tsunade. I call it my jutsu. It works on all perverts, it is a great distraction jutsu. I think I have heard of it. Tsunade said as she took a seat on her own cot. Naruto stood up with great pain and the help of Hinata. Naruto used the hand signs for the transformation jutsu. Naruto said quietly, transforming into a female about 20 years old, well endowed, with two blonde ponytails and wearing a pink kimono. Tsunade looked on with an appraising eye. She could be somewhat distracting, I will give that she is pretty. So what causes it to be a true distraction? Tsunade asked before she figured that she would regret her decision. Hinata smirked and lowered her head, shaking it all the while. You asked for it. Jutsu. Naruto smirked as her clothes disappeared and revealed a buxom beauty of a girl, whiffs of smoke covering her nipples and genital areas. This is the true jutsu. Tsunade smirked wildly. I can see why it would cause a distraction. You got some very nice measurements. If you ever give up being a boy, you would make a beautiful girl. Tsunade teased as Naruto turned into puff of smoke, showing Naruto back to his normal form with a scowl. Hinata seemed disappointed and happy at the same time by the change. What is that look for Hinata? Hinata blushed red instantly. Naruto-kun is both handsome and beautiful. Hinata replied as she buried her face under the sleeping bag. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Naruto, your jutsu appeared not to be genjutsu but an actual transformation. Am I correct? Yeah, it is an actual transformation. I can't do genjutsu to save my life. Naruto replied, not sure if he should be disappointed or proud. The transformation jutsu is normally a genjutsu, not an actual transformation. There is a transformation jutsu, but it is a Jonin level jutsu. I am not sure how you are able to do it, but you can do that jutsu without any of the required hand signs. Also, the jutsu is in the Forbidden Scroll. Do you know why? Tsunade asked as both Naruto and Hinata shook their heads. The jutsu requires more chakra than the normal transformation jutsu and can become permanent by rerouting your chakra network. You stumbled upon an improved version of the jutsu and have perfected it. I would say that we need Hinata to watch you perform the jutsu over time so that we can see if you have done something with how you mold the chakra that is different and would make it easier for us to use that jutsu rather than the genjutsu version. Naruto sat down and wore a confused look. Why? Well, genjutsu gives off signs that it is there, your jutsu does not. For all we know, it is related to the Kyuubi and would be a bloodline limit for you. Now back to your story. Tsunade smiled as she asked for Naruto to continue. Well, Ero Sennin watched me try to do water walking and asked me to mold some chakra. I was in my boxers so I wouldn't get all my clothes wet again. He hit my seal with his hand. I later found out from him that he removed a second seal that Orochimaru Tem had placed on me during the second part of the Chunin exams. It had really messed my chakra up. Naruto explained. So you fought Kiba-kun with a seal on top of the Kyuubi seal? Hinata gasped as she inquired. Naruto smiled. Yep. Had I had access to all my chakra, Kiba wouldn't have stood a chance. But I continued anyways despite the handicap. After Ero Sennin removed the seal, I could walk on water without much problem. We then went on to learning summoning. I summoned Gamabunta, but only after he threw me off a cliff. All the females gasped at Naruto's comment. I went on to beat some sense into Neji and then beat some sense into Gaara of the desert. Wait, you beat Gaara? Tsunade asked pointedly. Yeah, Gamabunta, and I beat him when he went into his fully transformed state. Naruto explained as if it was normal. You took on Shukaku, the one-tailed demon form of the Ikibi Jinchuriki? Tsunade asked almost incredulously. Yeah, I did. It took nearly everything I had, but I was able to beat him and scare him into going back to Suna. Naruto replied almost angrily as Hinata rubbed his back affectionately. Naruto froze as he felt the hand moving up and down his back. Naruto, not used to affection, had frozen and was not sure what to do. What is wrong, Naruto? Tsunade inquired with a worried look. Naruto hesitated in responding. I am not sure what to do. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked as she continued to gently caress his back. Naruto gulped. No one has ever rubbed my back to try to comfort me. Sure, maybe a pat on the back from Iruka or Gigi, but they would never rub. All three females looked sadly at Naruto as Hinata embraced him from behind. It is alright Naruto-kun, we are here for you now and we promise you will get the treatment you deserve. Naruto weakly smiled as he was still not sure how to deal with the situation. With the pain and the new feelings he could not put on his mask. What do we do now? Naruto asked as he was nearly in overload from affection. We have breakfast then head in any direction we can to get away from Konoha for a little while. Or until the council comes to their senses. Tsunade responded as she walked out of the tent and began to cook the food with Shizune. Naruto extracted himself from Hinata as gently as he could and apologized. Hinata-chan, please do not get me wrong. I do like you but I am still new to affection from someone who likes me more than a friend. I know I love to hug and play around. I do enjoy hugs, I am just not used to them. Naruto stated sadly. Can I have more? Naruto asked almost pleading. Hinata nodded as she had thought he would want her to stop giving him affection. It was just that he was not used to it, so he wanted to make sure he did not make a mistake and hurt her. She was happy as she again wrapped him in a hug. They stayed that way until they were called out to breakfast. Naruto offered Hinata his hand as he went for the opening of the tent. You coming? Hinata nodded and took his hand. They left the tent together as they went towards the campfire. Okay. You are both now my apprentices. You will do what I tell you and when I tell you. Got it? Tsunade stated more than asked. Hinata nodded enthusiastically. Naruto looked at her with a mix of confusion and challenge in his eyes. Shizune handed them a plate and a book named Basic Human Anatomy. Here is breakfast and your work for today. We will be studying the human body to become medics. As Naruto-kun will have to take it easy, we will train his mind first, then we will train his body. I know if you can do the Rasengan, you can do simple diagnostic jutsu. Tsunade-sama and I want to take your control to new heights. Shizune raised her hand to forestall any complaints she knew were coming. I know you have poor chakra control because you have large amounts of chakra. Hinata-san and I will help you with chakra control, even if it means we will have to create some new jutsu for you to be able to do this. Does that sound acceptable, Naruto-kun? Shizune asked with a kind smile. Naruto reluctantly nodded. Will there be written tests? I do terrible on written tests. Naruto complained. No, there will be oral tests to prove you have learned the lessons. And as Shizune pointed out, Naruto, you are not in any condition to do any jutsu right now. We will work on the book work first and the chakra control will come as you finish healing. Now as you eat breakfast I want you to read chapter 1 in the book. Tsunade ordered as she smiled and began to eat. We will be headed to the northeast towards an area you might be familiar with, Naruto. I believe you know the way to the wave country, don't you? Naruto nodded as he was eating his breakfast. Good, then you will know some people there that might help us out while we are there. The group of 4 finished breakfast just as an Anbu agent landed next to Tsunade and whispered something into her ear. Her eyes shot wide. Alright, everyone get into the woods now. Shizune, seal up the tent now and follow them. Tsunade ordered as 3 more Anbu jumped down and took places around the fire. Shizune sealed the tent quickly and dashed into the woods. Tsunade whispered orders and ran into the woods to conceal herself next to an uneasy Naruto and a smirking Hinata next to him. Okay, we have a couple people heading this way, keep still and they should go away. Tsunade quietly ordered as the group nodded acknowledgement. Kakashi, Pakken, and an injured Akamaru and Kiba landed in the camp. What can we do for you, Kakashi-san, and Inuzuka-san? The wolf-masked Anbu asked. We are looking for both Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga. The council would like to speak to them and they are not where they are supposed to be. Kakashi droned out. Sorry, can't help you, Kakashi-san. We are on a mission from the Hokage herself. Wolf replied. Pakken walked over to the bush that Tsunade was hiding behind and turned to Kakashi. I have to relieve myself, Kakashi, so I will be right back. Pakken said as Kakashi just waved to him and continued his banter with the Anbu agents asking for breakfast from them, much to their and Kiba's annoyance. Pakken put his face right up to Tsunade and whispered. Tsunade-sama Kakashi was ordered by the council to bring Naruto to them so they could give him a trial for hurting Sasuke. I would also like to report that Kakashi nearly didn't bring back Naruto from the Valley of the End. I had to force his hand by threatening to drag Sasuke back myself so that he could carry back Naruto, who was more grievously wounded. Also, I have this for you. Pakken stated as scroll appeared next to him. What is this? Tsunade questioned. It is the general locations of missing summoning scrolls as far as my clan can tell. We have followed rumors as best we could to find them. You should ask your summons if they will allow other summons for you. They may or they may not, depending on the summons, as some summons are more arrogant than others. You must get permission from your main summons first, as they will dictate what summons you will be allowed to have. Pakken told Tsunade, who just nodded and took the scroll, stuffing it in between her massive S. Good luck, we are rooting for Naruto, and if you can get Kakashi to get off his lazy butt, it would be much appreciated. Poor Kiba has had to do a lot, and his sister and the doctors told Kakashi that he shouldn't be going out of his room for at least a week or more. Kakashi-sensei, I don't feel so good. I know Hinata-chan and Naruto were here, but I think I need to go back to the hospital, Kiba stammered out just before he collapsed in the arms of an Anbu with a sparrow mask. What are you doing having an injured genin coming with you searching for your own student Kakashi? Wolf asked Kakashi, who just shrugged. You realize Sume will skin you alive and feed you to her dogs for this, don't you? The council told me to take him, and we are getting A rank pay for this little search and retrieval. I would also like to tell my student a few things. First, like how he abandoning his comrades and how his teammate Sakura feels right now, and how Sasuke is going to make a full recovery. Kakashi yelled to no one in particular. So the traitor will be well for his trial. That is good news. As for Uzumaki-san, I think Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama had him set to do light training and rest. Wolf commented. Well, the council is looking for him and wants to talk to him about what happened at the Valley of the End. Kakashi responded. I thought everyone filed a report about it. Wolf retorted. Well, the council thinks Naruto is lying. Kakashi bluntly stated. Naruto nearly rose up, only Hinata's hand squeezing his stopped him from doing anything. She shook her head as she saw his anger rise. I am sure Kurenai-san will not be happy with you taking her student and injuring him more. Take him back to the village and you can restart your search when you get back. Wolf nearly ordered. I am sure Kurenai-san might even go as far as to either castrate you or burn your book collection if you don't get Kiba-san some medical help. Wolf pointed out as Kakashi's face lost all color. Kakashi grabbed Kiba and Akamaru and turned back towards Konoha. Pakken, come on, we need to get these two back to the village. This isn't as far as they could have gone in a single day. Kakashi yelled as he jumped up into the trees and headed back towards Konoha. See what I have to deal with. Pakken grumbled quietly as Shizune and Tsunade both giggled at Pakken's predicament. I'm coming, oh great copy ninja. Pakken yelled sarcastically as he also went back towards Konoha. 5 minutes after Kakashi left, the Anbu searched the immediate area and found no one. All clear, Hokage-sama. Kakashi has headed back towards Konoha. Do you wish us to escort you for another day? We would be honored, as Naruto-sama is still injured. We can help you in transporting him closer to your final destination. Wolf stated as he bowed. Naruto looked at Tsunade quizzically. What did he mean by calling me Naruto-sama? No one has ever called me that before. Tsunade smiled. You were in my office the other night, weren't you, Wolf? Tsunade asked with a raised eyebrow. What all do you know? Wolf stood but remained in a bow. Group spread and maintain a safety perimeter. Wolf ordered as the others spread left the clearing after putting out the fire. He waited until the others were out of hearing range and then Tsunade allowed him to speak. Tsunade-sama wrote up the clan adoption papers for Naruto-sama to become part of the Senju clan. Wolf stated as Hinata gasped at this revelation. Tsunade-sama also set forth several edicts. I will not mention them as they have to do with items that Shizune-chan has in her possession and other matters military. I watched you until you left at 4 this morning to get a couple hours of sleep. I also got a couple hours of sleep in having set my squad and I as your escort for the day. We are loyal to you and will do anything you ask, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade smiled then laughed at her carelessness. Well, Wolf, it looks like you are going to escort us to the northwest as we are headed towards the wave country and might need some guards for part of the trip. Naruto, can you create some clones and have them transform into each of us? I want you to send them in some other direction. Tsunade asked. Naruto nodded and crossed his fingers, created 12 clones. You have your orders, Hinata-chan. You can look at them and see what I do for the Henge Jutsu. Naruto said as Hinata activated her Byakugan. 3 of them changed into Tsunade, another 3 of them changed into Shizune and another 3 of them changed into Hinata. You okay, boss? You don't look so good. One of the Naruto clones asked Naruto as he staggered into Hinata's waiting arms. Just go now and lay down a trail anyone could follow, even Tem. Naruto teased as the clones took off, each in groups of 4, heading north, east, southeast and southwest towards Suna. Wolf stood. We will cover your tracks, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade helped Naruto up onto her back. Happy birthday, Naruto-kun. You are now my cousin by edict of the Hokage. Now you can say you have family, me. Tsunade stated happily. Thanks, Ba-chan. Wait, now what do I call you now that you are my cousin and not just some old hag? Naruto asked as he laid his head on Tsunade's back. Tsunade smiled. You can call me Obasan or refer to me as your aunt. Does that sound okay with you? Yeah, sure. Naruto slurred out as he fell asleep on her back. That was very kind, Tsunade-sama, letting Naruto-kun into your clan. Hinata stated proudly. Not really, he needed a nice birthday gift. He can even keep his name if he likes. And you can refer to me as Shisho, or master. As you both are now my new apprentices. When he wakes up we will need to find a place to let him rest so that he will be guarded and not have too many interruptions. The Anbu will hide our trail effective enough, but if Kakashi comes it might be harder to hide our trail. Poor Kiba, I am sure I distinctly ordered that he was not to leave the hospital before the end of the week. The group of 4 left the area towards Wave Country as the Anbu group followed and covered their trail. They made it about 3/4 the way to Wave before deciding to find a place to rest. Off the trail about a mile they found a concrete bunker-like building. The Anbu entered the structure, returned about 20 minutes later, and asked the Hokage to come to the side for a discussion. Hokage-sama, the building is safe enough for habitation on the short term. But we found that this place was one of Orochimaru's labs, and there are still has some experiments that are still going. You might want to take a look. Wolf explained. Tsunade and Wolf walked into the building. Shizune and the rest of you stay out here for a little bit. Tsunade ordered as she laid Naruto on a soft mat of moss near the entrance. Tsunade entered the building and was at once in awe and revolted by what she saw. Long dead experiments were held in large glass tubes the size that would hold a human or at least what was left of one. Several held the remains of humans in them, looking like grotesque animals in containers ready for dissection. As they explored the complex they found the mess hall, the infirmary and the sleeping quarters were all close together but away from the experiment containers. There was an operation hall, also. If it weren't for Orochimaru's hands on this complex it would be a great base of operations with lots of things that would help the group be able to start off in becoming the independent shinobi she wanted. As she nearly finished her check of the facility she noticed a few tanks that still had power going to them and what appeared to be alive, if not having stasis subjects in them. She looked at the tanks and realized that there were actual subjects in the tanks and they were alive. She and Wolf pulled the subjects out of their tanks and surveyed them. There were 3 in total, all of them female. They varied in age from about 17 to about 10 years old. One was covered in fine scales but also was the youngest. The second appeared to be about 13 and appeared to have had experiments run on her. The last and oldest appeared to be a malnourished 17-year-old girl with dark hair and dark eyes. They were all put in rooms in the infirmary. Hinata chose to sleep in the same infirmary bed as Naruto when they were at last brought into the facility. Tsunade spent the early part of the night up going over all the documents they had found in the facility. It apparently was both a breeding factory and a gene splicing operations center. It was abandoned because Orochimaru did not have the resources to keep the facility going outside of the land of rice. Shizune kept an eye on the new patients as they recovered from their long slumber. The Anbu kept guard outside the facility for the night. Let's see. Bloodline theft and breeding. What were you up to, Orochimaru? Tsunade spoke as she continued to read the research notes. This facility was abandoned almost 6 months ago and the research was just left here. There were 5 subjects when they left, 2 males and 3 females. Tsunade pondered as she continued to think out loud. The oldest female is an Uchiha who was the basis for proving that Uchiha would be more viable candidates for the curse seal. She was not marked but left for breeding purposes if he decided to come back. Sounds like the Tem. Not really worried if he comes back for an experiment. Naruto stated as he startled Tsunade out of her thoughts. Naruto was breathing hard and leaning against the door. What are you doing out of bed, young man? Tsunade inquired with a soft, almost loving tone. Well, Obasan, the nurses here didn't seem to answer at the nurses' station. Sort of reminds me of home. Naruto joked as Tsunade chucked at his comment. Actually, Hinata-chan was too cute to wake and I was hungry, so I thought I would get some food. Lo and behold, I find I am in a bunker in the infirmary. So how do I find the mess hall to get something to eat? Tsunade chuckled as she got up, grabbed Naruto and helped him onto a couch in the office. Both turned as they heard running down the hall. Tsunade Shisho. Tsunade Shisho. Naruto-kun is missing. Please tell me you know where he is. Hinata pleaded, almost in tears, as she ran in the doorway. Easy, Hinata. He is right here. He did not want to wake you as he thought you were too cute to wake. Tsunade teased as Hinata went from angry to blushing in a heartbeat. Why don't you keep him company and do some reading while I get you both a snack? I'll make it a meal in his case. Tsunade snidely chided at Naruto's appetite. Hey, that wasn't nice, Obachan. Naruto poked fun back at Tsunade. Grandma, is it? I am your physician and your sensei. Now read the book while I get you some food. Tsunade ordered sternly as both Naruto and Hinata nodded in agreement. Tsunade left with a smile on her lips as she headed to the mess hall. Hinata continued to read until she had finished the chapter and then looked at Naruto, who was still only a few pages into the chapter she had just read. She watched his eyes keep on running over the same text over and over again. She also noticed his aggravation increasing with each pass. Naruto-kun, is everything okay? Hinata whispered to Naruto. Naruto looked almost lost when he turned to look in Hinata's eyes. What is it, Naruto-kun? Naruto looked almost in tears, as his eyes showed fear and worry. I don't get it, Naruto whispered under his breath. Hinata put her hand on his back, gently rubbing it, trying to take the fear away. What don't you get, Naruto-kun? Tell me and I might be able to help you. Hinata said with all the conviction she could muster. I can't get this paragraph. I can read most of the words but not all, and even when I can read them, I can't understand them. Naruto blurted out. He then dropped the book and brought his hands up to his face. I really am an idiot. Naruto shouted to no one in particular as he wept into his hands. Hinata pulled Naruto gently into her shoulder so that he could cry and be comforted. It is okay, Naruto-kun, it isn't your fault. Hinata continued to gently rub his back. But, Naruto tried to counter her argument. Shish, Naruto-kun, it's okay. I'm here for you. Hinata continued, trying to comfort him. Did the academy let you use a dictionary, Naruto? Did they actually teach you anything? Tsunade asked with a tray full of food in her hands as she walked into the room. Naruto shook his head while it was still in the crook of Hinata's neck. Poor Naruto-kun, Hinata exclaimed. Yes, poor Naruto-kun. Those teams. They sabotaged his learning. I know he can write at least at the most basic levels. This means more work for us to do to get him where he should be. Naruto, you can skip the reading for tonight. Eat something and go back to bed and rest. After I get some rest myself, Shizune and I will come down to your room and work with both of you, especially you Naruto, but that will be tomorrow. We appear to have a lot of ground to cover that they did not in the academy. If we get back there and you make Hokage, you can fire all the ones who did not help your learning. If not, we can just tell Jiraiya and he can have Ibiki deal with them. Tsunade said as her ire rose. Naruto, Hinata, I want you guys to eat and then go back to bed. I have some paperwork to go over before we all go to bed. Naruto lifted his head off Hinata's shoulder and smiled at her. Thanks, Hinata-chan. Naruto. Tsunade questioned as Naruto looked at her, acknowledging her call to him. I would like to test you for Kekkei Genkai if you will let me. I have an idea and would like to test on you, and then if I am correct I am going to ask you a special question. Tsunade smiled warmly. This sent a shiver down his spine as he just nodded. Hey Obasan, Naruto called as he cleared his mouth of food. Yes Naruto-kun, what do you need? Tsunade asked as she continued to read the reports on the desk. You mentioned breeding purposes and Uchiha in the same sentence. What were you talking about? Naruto asked. Tsunade sighed. Well, I was talking about the 3 patients that Orochimaru abandoned here. One of them is an Uchiha, she is 17. Orochimaru planned to use her to make baby Uchiha. I have not figured out why he left her here as all 3 nearly died from neglect. That's terrible Tsunade Shisho. That is what Cloud might have planned for me if their attempt to abduct me had succeeded. Hinata stated as she continued to eat her snack. Naruto paled. Why would you use women to just make babies? Hinata giggled as Naruto's statement and Tsunade burst out laughing. What? Naruto asked innocently. Did you miss out on the education course? Tsunade asked Naruto. Well, I was able to sneak in after the course and look at the books, but I was caught after I was able to learn about the female organ placement in and on the female body. There was a lot I didn't understand. Also, the teacher told me, don't worry, demon, you will never need what was in this course anyway. Tsunade and Hinata were appalled at the brazen approach the teachers had towards Naruto's education. Tsunade opened a book and flipped through some pages pointed to a picture. What is that? Naruto looked at the picture and saw where she was pointing. That is the uterus. Tsunade moved her finger. The vagina. Again Tsunade moved her finger. That would be the right ovary. Well, you have a handle on at least some of the plumbing. What are the purposes of each of the organs I pointed to? Tsunade asked as Hinata turned as red as a tomato. Naruto shook his head. I don't have a clue. Tsunade slapped her head and then shook it. I might just put out a call to Anko to teach you. If Hinata doesn't mind. What? Naruto screamed and then coughed. Why would you want that crazy lady to teach me anything? Especially anything doing with female internal organs? Naruto asked with fear etched in his face. Tsunade laughed. Naruto, do you know where babies come from? Yeah, the hospital. Naruto replied confidently as Hinata giggled yet again. What? Well, they do. Yes, silly, but she was not asking where they are born. She is asking if you know how they are made. Hinata said as her blush deepened. Nope. Not a clue. Naruto replied with a huge grin. Tsunade slumped down in her chair and shook her head. The lengths they went to alienate you. I swear if we return I am going to kill some of them. Thus began Naruto's introduction to education. Afterwards Naruto had a redder face than Hinata. When Hinata walked Naruto back to his bed and he was somewhat fearful of the kunoichi. Why? You don't plan on doing that to me right now, do you, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked with fear in his eyes. Hinata placed her hand upon her mouth and shook her head. No Naruto-kun. Hinata blushed as she thought about it. But, someday, Naruto-kun, I would like to when we are older and possibly married. Naruto sighed in relief. I guess that would work. I am not ready to have kids. Also, it sounds painful to be a girl. From what I hear, it only hurts the first time, but I would still prefer to wait. I love you and will wait for when you are ready, Naruto-kun. Hinata reassured Naruto as she set him on the bed. Just because I sleep with you does not mean I am going to have with you, at least not yet. I like sleeping next to you because I love you and because you need the companionship. If we decide later to progress our relationship to that level, then it will happen. Hinata explained to Naruto as she took off her shirt and put on a nightgown. Hinata, if you don't mind me saying this, you are nearly as large at my jutsu. Naruto stated with a smile. Only afterwards did he realize what he had said and covered his head. I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. Hinata blushed then sighed. Naruto-kun, do you like them bigger? Naruto eased out of his defensive posture. You mean you are not going to hit me for what I said? Hinata shook her head. No, Naruto-kun, I was just asking if you had a preference for sizes. I have always felt self-conscious about my appearance and my large size for my age. Most Hyuga women were smaller than I am when they were my age. So I don't feel like I am pretty according to clan traditions. Hinata said as she lowered her head. Naruto lifted her face by her chin, and smiled. The size does not matter to me. I will explain what initially attracted me to Sakura and how my feelings for you have been changing over time. Naruto offered as Hinata sat down beside him on the bed. Well, as you know, Sakura has a flat chest, so that is not a deciding factor for me. I saw her when I was younger and she was nice to me, at least at first. She played with me while others did not. When I heard that boys were supposed to like girls, I decided I liked Sakura because she had been nice to me. This carried over through the years, but she was all I knew. So I began to think I loved her because I hoped she would be nice to me again. Things went south when she became fixated on another guy, Sasuke, but I didn't know it at the time. Naruto sighed and continued. Sakura soon after that became increasingly mean to me, but I thought it was something I had done, so I tried my best to do whatever she wanted. You could say that I got used to the hitting and insults. Part of me wanted her to be nice to me again. I longed for it so badly that I didn't care what it took to get her to like me again, I would do it. You could say I had tunnel vision when it came to Sakura. Naruto sighed again as Hinata rubbed his back. You know, she agreed to a date with me the night Tem ran away. She was totally out of it, but it made me so happy that she was giving me attention again that I didn't care. Naruto sighed yet again. I sort of figured I didn't have any chance with her when she came crying to the gates when we left to go get Tem. She begged me to bring him back. It was then that I understood that she loved him and not me. I had little to no chance to have her as a girlfriend and only slight chance to have her as a good friend. Hinata looked into Naruto's eyes, which held such sadness, loneliness and a slight edge of bitterness. I can tell you that I have absolutely no clue what love is. I never knew what it was like to have a mother or a father. The villagers would either insult me or just turn their backs on me. Hinata embraced Naruto in a gentle hug. Oh, Naruto-kun, it is okay. I am here for you. Naruto sniffled and chuckled slightly. That brings me to you, the one I overlooked. I am truly sorry that I didn't see you sooner. I sort of get hard-headed when I want something and ignore anything else till I get what I am after. In this case, we might have gotten what we were after sooner rather than later. I am sorry that I hurt you by not acknowledging your affection for me. Naruto tightened his embrace. I am so sorry. Hinata shook her head into Naruto's shoulder. It is okay, Naruto-kun, I was not brave enough to talk to you and you were blinded by your need to be seen. It was my fault by not being strong enough to come forward and speak to you. Citrus warning. Suddenly, Naruto got a look of confusion and curiosity on his face, while his blush deepened. Hinata-chan, Obasan told us about the reproductive system, but she never mentioned why girls are considered a part of it. Can you tell me why they are a part of it? He asked. Hinata blushed furiously, but smiled at him. You know that babies are born without teeth, right? She asked. Then continued, A woman who has just had a baby, or who is into the later stages of her pregnancy can produce what's called mother's milk, from their S, which comes out of her nipples. Babies feed off of this milk for the first few months of their lives, and the time in which a mother feeds her baby this way is a part of the process called bonding. Naruto's face changed into one of sadness. I'm guessing I never got the chance to do the whole bonding thing with my mother, he said glumly. Hinata frowned. No, I guess not, she said, then added, that might be why you were one of the shortest people in our class. Bonding and being fed properly by one's mother is essential to growing up properly. Naruto looked to Hinata. Hinata-chan, is it only possible for a person to bond with their mother? He asked, then said, I don't mean to be perverted, but I kind of want to bond with somebody, and, well, could the two of us bond? Hinata smiled warmly at him. There are many forms of bonding, Naruto-kun. Not all of them are the bonding between a mother and her baby. She explained, then continued, however, I would feel very privileged to give you your first meal of mother's milk. Naruto gave Hinata a confused look. I thought you said a woman can only make this milk when they have a baby. So how are you? He trailed off as Hinata pulled off her nightgown and bra, made a few hand seals, and said, this technique comes in handy when babysitting a newborn. Naruto-kun, I know you've never felt the love of a mother, but I can at least try and give you an example of what it feels like. Naruto blushed as Hinata sat down on the bed next to him and pulled him close. Just on one of my nipples, or we can just cuddle if you want. Hinata said. Naruto hesitantly put his mouth over one of her nipples, and began ing. Hinata hummed softly as she rubbed his back, and pulled him into her lap. Normally I should be the one in his lap, but it would be too difficult to do this if that were how we were positioned. She thought to herself, then blushed and asked, does it taste all right? Naruto, without pulling away, nodded slightly. To Hinata's surprise, he was crying if only a little bit. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? She asked, worried. Naruto frowned. I've always dreamt of being held by a woman who could have been my mother, but whenever I wake up from that dream, I feel so empty, he said, then held her and continued, I know you can't be a mother figure to me, but, thank you so much for helping me realize what such a thing feels like for real. Hinata smiled. I'm happy too, Naruto-kun, I'm happy to have been able to help you in any way I can, she said, pulling him close and adding, if you ever need something like this again, feel free to ask me. End citrus. That is so sweet. Tsunade's hushed voice carried over to the two young shinobi. They both froze in each other's arms, not sure what to do. Now either you two strip the rest of the way and do the deed or go to sleep. I have things to discuss with both of you tomorrow morning. Your little re-education class on human reproduction put us behind schedule and I need some sleep. So good night, and Naruto, for what it is worth I am sorry things were so bad. If I had known I would have done something sooner. Tsunade's voice trailed off. Naruto put on a huge foxy grin. That is okay Obasan. That was the past and there is nothing I can do about it. On a brighter note, Hinata-chan here says she loves me. When I figure out what that really means I am going to try to return it to her. Naruto replied as he hugged Hinata and then wiped away the tears from her face he didn't notice she had before. Thank you Naruto-kun, Hinata replied as she returned the hug. Tsunade smiled fondly. Looks to me like you are already on your way to figuring it out, Naruto. Good night, Tsunade said with a wave of her hand. Shizune, we need to talk for a minute then we can go to bed also. Tsunade whispered to Shizune as they left the room Naruto and Hinata were in. Naruto changed into pajamas with frogs on them and his otter with buck-teeth nightcap. Naruto curled up behind Hinata as they fell quickly asleep. Several miles away two teenage girls in kimonos were lying in a single sleeping bag near a fire. One was blonde and the other had long brown hair. I can tell he's close. We should be able to find him sometime tomorrow. I also know he is with Tsunade and she should be able to help heal you. The blonde exclaimed happily as she snuggled up in front of the brown-haired girl. Tsunade woke up in a good mood. Her discussion with Shizune went well and the patients would be waking in a day or two. Shizune had found the medical supplies for working on patients and they had hooked up the girls with both nutrients and fluids. The hard part would be in getting them back on their feet. She showered and got dressed. Today would be a really interesting day. She then walked into the lab and found the results from the tests she had run last night on Naruto's blood. Tsunade's grin broadened. Hinata thought she was in a dream as she woke. She smelled Naruto so close she could touch him. She then felt a hand move across her stomach, as it both tickled and startled her. She opened her eyes, fear radiating from them as she turned her head and looked at what was in the bed with her. She then saw a mess of spiky blonde hair and sighed heavily as she remembered going to bed with Naruto last night. Naruto slowly opened his beautiful, at least in Hinata's opinion, cerulean eyes and smiled warmly. "Morning, Hinata-chan," Naruto said in a gentle voice. This surprised her as she thought he would shout when he saw her, but he did not, as his greeting was filled with warmth and caring. "Morning, Naruto-kun," Hinata replied, and on a whim she kissed him directly on the lips. It was a little peck, but his eyes went wide in surprise. "Wow, that was unexpected," Naruto exclaimed in surprise. Hinata looked almost hurt. "Why? I told you I love you. Why would it surprise you that I would want to give you a wake-up kiss?" "Sorry, Hinata-chan, I am just not used to waking up to a beautiful girl in my bed and her kissing me as soon as I wake up." Naruto apologized and hung his head in shame. Hinata smiled warmly and used her index finger to lift his chin. "Naruto-kun, I meant what I said and said what I meant. I love you. I will keep saying it until you either believe me or you understand." Hinata gently scolded him and then kissed him deeply. His eyes went wide then closed like hers did. "Okay. Make out session's over. I have to ask Hinata a question and then ask you a question, so get showered and dressed. And please not at the same time unless you use different bathrooms. I don't need to wake you both up from blood loss," Tsunade said as she turned and left the room. "Meet me in the mess hall. I have your results, Naruto-kun," she called back from down the hallway. "Naruto-kun, you can use this bathroom. I will use the one in the room across the hall," Hinata said as she grabbed some clothes. Naruto's mouth hung open as he got a glimpse of Hinata's clothes, specifically her undergarments, white lace panties. "Sorry, I didn't mean to look." Naruto apologized as his face turned bright red. "If you are to be my boyfriend and eventually my husband, you will eventually see my underwear," Hinata said while she smiled and blushed. She then twirled her panties on her index finger as she left the room, while she swung her hips from side to side. Naruto was completely confused. His jaw was left on the floor. He was not sure how to react. He got the distinct impression that Hinata was trying to make up for lost time and seduce him as quickly as possible. This excited and frightened him. How did he miss this girl? Both beautiful, inside and out, and she really did want a relationship with him. He continued to think hard on what he had seen and tried hard to figure it out. Unknown to him, time had passed without him realizing it. Hinata entered the room, her hair lightly wet, wearing only black pants and a white lace bra. "Wait a minute. Why doesn't she have a shirt on?" Naruto thought as Hinata passed him, giving him a full view of her chest for a second time, except this time with only a lace bra as protection. Naruto's jaw again dropped. "Sorry, Naruto-kun, I felt like show you again. Do you like what you see?" Hinata asked with a devious grin on her face and a blush on her face. Naruto nodded dumbly as Shizune giggled in the doorway. "Naruto-kun, you need to hurry up and get ready for breakfast," Shizune warned. Naruto entered the bathroom and closed the door. Hinata quietly activated her Byakugan and sighed as she watched Naruto shower. "Hinata-chan, are you doing what I think you're doing?" Shizune inquired as Hinata just nodded, smiled, and sighed contently. "Hinata-chan, you need to talk to Tsunade Shisho. Now." Shizune had startled Hinata out of her peeping on Naruto as she shook her head at the young girl, and then Hinata finally headed to the mess hall. For some reason Naruto could not get the sight of Hinata in her bra out or twirling her panties of his mind, as well as the events of last night, and he had been so distracted that he had forgotten to get a towel. He also had a problem, on that he was excited by the thought of Hinata in a bra, or possibly in nothing at all. Wait. Bad Naruto, I am not Ero Sennin. Realizing he didn't have a towel, he called out to Hinata for help. Hinata-chan, I need a towel, could you get me one? Shizune chuckled at Naruto having forgotten a towel. She brought one into the bathroom. Here you go, Naruto-kun. Shizune. Is that you? Naruto asked. Yes, it is, Naruto-kun. Is there anything wrong? Shizune inquired in a worried voice. Well, sort of. Naruto almost sounded embarrassed. What is it, Naruto-kun? I am a trained medic and should be able to help. Shizune called into the shower. It won't go down, Naruto blurted out. What won't go down? The water. Shizune asked, more worried. No, that isn't it. What was the word? Tsunade covered it last night, dang it. I can't remember. Naruto replied as his voice almost became frantic. What did you talk about last night, Naruto-kun? Shizune asked as she reached for the curtain and was ready to open it to help Naruto. We covered education last night. It won't go down. Naruto, the panic was clear in his voice. Shizune lowered her head and sighed. She believed she knew what was going on. Is this about seeing Hinata-chan scantily clad, Naruto-kun? Shizune inquired. I think so, I am not sure. I can't get her out of my mind. Naruto was panicked and pulled the curtain open. See, it won't go down. Shizune smiled as she looked at his lower reaches. Well, Naruto-kun, there are a few ways to get it to go down again. Shizune let her mind slip. Impressive for a 13-year-old. What do? I can't go on like this. Naruto holding a towel in his right hand and also pointing to his excited crotch. Shizune blushed. The first thing you need to do is cover up. Naruto blushed and quickly put the towel around his waist. Next, there are few ways to deal with your problem. You can have now. I wouldn't advise that as you are not ready for the implications of that just yet. You could have someone relieve you, or you could do it yourself. Naruto looked her with a confused look on his face. We will talk to Hinata-chan and Tsunade Shisho about that one later. Lastly, you can relax, stop thinking about girls and put your mind at ease. Thinking of something like Orochimaru, Jiraiya-sama, or something that you find unattractive. That should help with your problem. The last one will fix your problem for now, but it may take some time. I advise you to worry more about the question that Tsunade Shisho has for you and not about making babies with Hinata-chan. Naruto sighed at being told he was okay. Thanks, Shizune-chan. Sorry about being in front of you. Shizune chuckled. You are fine, Naruto-kun. I was just surprised that was your problem, would be so easy to diagnose and solve. But we will still have to talk about this, as you will need to learn a way for it not to be a distraction for you. Naruto stepped out with a bulge in his towel and hugged Shizune. Thanks, Shizune-chan. Shizune followed Naruto into the room where she had to catch herself ogling a near child. She needed a boyfriend, and soon. As Naruto got dressed, Shizune blushed slightly. Naruto noticed but did not want to bring this up as he was already embarrassed enough showing off his problem to Shizune. Naruto finished getting dressed and left with Shizune to go to the mess hall. They entered only to see Hinata as she glowed bright red and nodded to Tsunade. Tsunade had a bowl of food ready next to Hinata and pointed to it. Have a seat, Naruto-oi. I have a difficult question for you and hope you will think about it and not make a snap decision. Also take the question seriously, please. Tsunade stated, but a nervous look was in her eyes. Naruto noticed his fear of rejection. He was confused as to why she would have that. Okay, Obasan, out with it. What are your questions? Naruto asked between bites of his breakfast. His eyes darted between Hinata, Shizune and Tsunade. Tsunade took a deep breath and sighed. Well Naruto, I know you like Hinata-chan here. Tsunade pointed out as Naruto nodded and continued to eat. Tsunade didn't notice as she began to ask her question, but Naruto had begun to take a drink. Naruto, I want you to be the father of my child. Naruto sprayed his drink at the question. He then looked at her like she was completely crazy. Naruto gulped loudly. Right now? What about what Shizune said about not having right now, as it wouldn't be good for me? And what about last night discussee?